This has been one of the crazier weeks of college football that I can even remember, and this is from dating back to that 2007 year where everything was a mess and everything was chaotic, and it's starting to look like this year is about to turn into the same exact thing. We'll see what happens later down the road, but let's talk about my week 4 rankings after this crazy weekend of college football. Let's get it. At number 1, I have the Alabama Crimson Tide. They play Southern Miss this weekend. They won 63-14, and obviously they look dominant, and that's why I got them number 1. They took care of business. They got Ole Miss next week. That's going to be a crazy game. Later on this week, I'm going to make my predictions video, and this is going to be the first game, so be sure to watch out for that. At number 2, I have the Georgia Bulldogs. This weekend they play Vanderbilt, and they destroyed them. Absolutely obliterated. 62-0. Vanderbilt still isn't a good team. Worst team in the SEC. Georgia, honestly, they might be the best team in the SEC, but we'll see later on in the year when they play Alabama. I do think Georgia's defense is better than Alabama's, but Alabama's offense is better than Georgia's in my mind. But yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about it at a later time. Next, I got the Oregon Ducks at 3. They played Arizona this weekend, and honestly, they did not look that good against Arizona, even though they did win that game 41-19. Arizona threw like 4 picks in this game. They had a lot of turnovers, and they're actually competitive. If they didn't make any of the errors that they did, this game would have been a lot closer, and Oregon would have been on upset alert. But yeah, a little worried about the Ducks, but I just think they played down to their opponents, so we'll see how that pans out. At number 4, I have Cincinnati. Now, the reason I have Cincinnati 4 is just because I have high hopes for their offense and their defense, and plus Iowa and Penn State didn't look that good this weekend. And then Cincinnati also plays Notre Dame, which we'll get to later in this video, and that'll honestly show if they're for real or not. At number 5, I have the Penn State Nittany Lions, and this week they play Villanova, 138-17. They looked okay in this game. I mean, it was average. They kind of played down to Villanova because Villanova is really not good, and I really just expected more out of Penn State in this game. Now, ranked 6, I have Iowa, and they actually played down to their opponent too this weekend. They played Colorado State, won that game 24-14. They didn't look that good in this game either. It was kind of sloppy. Defense played well, but their offense, again, just didn't look that good. They made mistakes, and I honestly expected Iowa to play a lot better, especially like how they've been playing this year, but we'll see if they could turn things around their next game. And in rank 7, I have the Oklahoma Sooners, and they play West Virginia this weekend. I kind of thought this game would be more of a breakout game for Oklahoma. I thought that their defense and their offense would be able to come together and score more points and hold West Virginia, but they did hold West Virginia to only 13 points. They won 16-13, but they didn't look good. Oklahoma's offense, again, looked terrible, and they're just not scoring. Their defense is holding them in these last 2 games against Nebraska and against West Virginia, and I don't know how long the defense is going to hold the way they do once they start playing more high-powered teams. So they have to figure out what's going on offense, or I could see Oklahoma losing at least 2 games this year, and they might not even make the playoff, and that's kind of scary because of how high their expectations were. But this is a funky year, so we'll see how it all plays out in the end. And now for my game of the week. My game of the week was Notre Dame against Wisconsin. As you can see, I put Notre Dame at number 8 after their win. I thought Wisconsin would win this game, and they wouldn't commit as many turnovers, and Mertz would play better, but obviously that didn't happen. He threw 4 interceptions, fumbled the ball twice, and Notre Dame converted on all of those, basically. And Notre Dame won this game 41-13. They blew Wisconsin out of the water. I said in the last video, I'll say it now, they need to bench Graham Mertz and let other people have a try because he is not ready. He makes too many mistakes. He looks scared, and he's not ready for the moment. Wisconsin's got a great defense, but they have no offense at all. They have no offensive identity. They're basically, it's a wasted year for them. They need to start to look for more consistency on the offensive end and find someone that's going to match that play style. Like, they want to run the ball, and they have to be able to throw the ball at least a little bit and make better decisions. Now for the number 9 team in the country, I have Ohio State. They played Akron this weekend, won that game 59-7. They looked very good in this game, but again, it's Akron. Akron actually came out and scored on their first possession, and that was the only time they scored throughout this game. After that, Ohio State held. They looked decent, but I'm going to give them a little break because they were missing, I think it was 16 starters and 11 on the defensive end or something like that, which is kind of crazy. But they came out to play. Kyle McCord played this game. Jack Miller played as well. They played decent for their first games. I actually think Jack Miller played a little bit better, and I think he runs Ohio State's offense better as being a dual threat quarterback rather than McCord, which is a pocket passer. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if they play any of these guys in their game against Rutgers next week, or maybe we'll just see CJ Stroud the whole game. At number 10, we have the Arkansas Razorbacks, and they played Texas A&M this weekend and won 20-10 in Fayetteville. Very proud of the Razorbacks and how Pittman has done at this team. They especially looked good in the beginning when they were up 17-0, and they were shutting Texas A&M out. Texas A&M offense couldn't do anything this game, and just like I said in my previous video, their offense is anemic. It basically doesn't exist. Spiller is okay. He's a good running back, but they don't have like any presence offensively, and that's what's plaguing them. It's the same thing that's plaguing Clemson, and they just can't seem to figure it out. But kudos for Arkansas for actually being Texas A&M for the first time in 9 years. I had a feeling they were going to win this game, and I was right. And Arkansas just seems different, and they're on the uptrend. And we'll see what they can do against Georgia next week. At number 11, I have the Florida Gators. They played Tennessee this weekend. They won that game 38-14. This is a very offensive type of game. Both defenses played okay, but I think Florida had like 505 yards, and Tennessee had 400 or something. But Tennessee did not convert at all in this game. Florida, especially Emory Jones, was like the whole offense. He had like 140 or something like that yards rushing, and then he had 2 passing touchdowns. He was very efficient in this game, and this was just his time. And I've been very critical of Emory Jones before, but if he keeps improving, this team can go so far, and we'll see what they can do later on against Georgia and maybe an SEC championship game. And I have Ole Miss at 12. They play Alabama next Saturday, but they didn't play this week. They had a bye week. But yeah, we're going to see. That's going to be the showdown of the week. I think that is my game of the week, actually, and we're going to break that down later this week. Next, we got BYU at 13. They played South Florida this weekend. They won that game 35-27. Baylor Romney looked pretty good, especially in the beginning. They scored 3 touchdowns like right out the gate, and they were winning 21-0 in this game. But every quarter after the first quarter, South Florida outplayed BYU, which is kind of scary. And it's kind of weird that BYU is so close to like a lot of these games. A lot of these games, they're just so close. And BYU should be beating these teams by more than they are. And I think they play down to their opponents as well. There are a lot of schools that do play down to their opponents, and I do think BYU is one of those schools. But we'll see if they can do something later on this year. I do see them losing a couple games, but we'll see. And next we got Coastal Carolina at number 14. They actually won their game this weekend 53-3 against UMass. UMass obviously not a good team at all. Coastal Carolina is very talented, especially when it comes to a lot of the teams on their schedule. I really don't see them losing a game, but I don't see them going to the playoff, obviously. I see them maybe in a New Year's Six Bowl if they win out. But yeah, nothing really to talk about with this game. Let's move on to the next one. Up next, we got the Michigan Wolverines. They won their game this weekend against Rutgers 20-13. They looked super good at the beginning of this game. They were able to run the ball. They scored all 20 points, I think, in the first half. Quote me if I'm wrong. They might have scored 17 and 3 in the second half. But they did win the game. They played good defense. Rutgers is obviously a better team than most people think they are under Greg Schiano. Rutgers defense played very well, especially in the second half. They outplayed Michigan by far. And if they didn't make a couple of the mistakes they did, they probably could have upset Michigan. So this was their first real game. And I kind of thought that they would play better than they did, even though I think Rutgers is a good team. I thought Michigan would at least win by 2 touchdowns or maybe a little bit more. But hey, we'll see what goes on. We'll see what goes on when they play their other teams, when they play Penn State and Ohio State. And at number 16, I have the Michigan State Spartans. They played Nebraska over the weekend, and they actually won this game 23-20. They won off a game-winning field goal. You know, normal Nebraska fashion, always blowing the games at the end. But Michigan State really did not play well in this game at all. Like, they were just awful. Nebraska played better than Michigan State, and they lost that game, which is kind of ironic, you know, coming from Nebraska. But regardless of that, Michigan State won the game. I moved them up a couple spots because of other losses, but I really see the Spartans losing 3 games this year. But yeah, let's get into the next game. Next, we got Texas A&M at 17. Now, the only reason Texas A&M isn't further back from me, because I had them at 10 before before losing to Arkansas, is they only lost by 10, and it was at Arkansas, and Arkansas is a way better team than they were. Texas A&M still does not have an offense, but their defense is really good, and I believe that I got the ranking right at 17. We'll see what they can do the rest of the year. You know, they have Alabama and, you know, others. So, yep, we'll see. Then number 18, we have North Carolina State. They play Clemson this weekend. They beat Clemson 27-21 in a game. Honestly, they probably should have won by more than they did. They had 2 chances to win the game, and they didn't convert on those field goals, but they did win in overtime and upset Clemson. Clemson obviously is not the same team, but NC State played very good. Their defense played very well. Their offense played very well as well. Not really more to say. I talked about that in the last video. If you want to know more about it, go watch that. And at number 19, we have the Clemson Tigers, which lost to North Carolina State 27-21 and looked awful in that game. Just talked about it. If you guys want to know more what I think about Clemson, watch my last video, like I hinted before. But I put them at 19 just because I think that they're better than a lot of the teams, like in the top, in like 20 to 25. So I just had to put them here. I don't think they should be not ranked, but I understand if people have them as not ranked. And rounding out the top 20, we have UCLA. They beat Stanford this weekend 35-24. UCLA looked pretty good in this game, especially in the first quarter. They went really fast, 14-0. Stanford hung around a little bit till the 4th, and UCLA scored 2 more touchdowns to really just put the distance between them and Stanford. And yeah, that's really all I got to say about this game. UCLA seems promising. Stanford, they're kind of like that spotty team this year. And yeah. Next, we got Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State, they play Kansas State this weekend. The AP poll had Kansas State at 25 and Oklahoma State not ranked. I personally thought that neither team should be ranked, especially because Kansas State didn't have their starting quarterback. And I knew that they were going to lose this game. Oklahoma State proved that they were the better team. And in this game, they won 31-20. They were winning 31-10 at one point, I'm pretty sure. But in the second half, no one really scored. I think Kansas State scored like 7 points, and then that was it. But yeah, Oklahoma State, clearly the better team. And I honestly think they have a great chance of upsetting Oklahoma at the end of the year. And in rank 22, we have the Texas Longhorns. They played Texas Tech this weekend, and they won 70-35. A very offensive game. This is how a Big 12 game usually is. No defense, just all offense. But honestly, Texas, their defense played decent in this game. They held Texas Tech, especially in the first half. The second half, Texas Tech started to score more. But Texas was obliterating Texas Tech. They were winning like 42-14 at halftime, and they poured on many more points. And this is just kind of ridiculous. Sarkisian, he knows what he's doing, and their offense is firing on all cylinders with Casey Thompson. Texas Tech, they came into this game like 3-0. So this wasn't a game to be taken like lightly, and Texas showed up. So yeah, that's why I got them at 22. Right after Texas, I have the Baylor Bears. Now, the Bears, they played Iowa State. Iowa State obviously hasn't looked the same this year. They've been a little overrated, but Baylor's a decent team. They came in this game 3-0 and straight up just outplayed Iowa State. Now, Iowa State, I don't think they deserve to be ranked anymore. I don't have them in my top 25. Spoiler for the last 2. But Baylor definitely deserves to be in the top 25, even though they only won by 2 points in this game. That's why I have them at 23, and I put Oklahoma State and Texas ahead of them. But yeah, we'll see what the Bears can do with the rest of the Big 12 schedule. Now, at number 24, I have the Maryland Terps. And Maryland actually played Penn State this weekend. They won the game 37-16. They start off the season 4-0. They've looked pretty good with Talia Tagovailoa. And they're kind of firing on all cylinders. I mean, they're not blowing teams out like crazy, but they're playing very good football, and I honestly think this team can make a ruckus in the Big Ten. And last but not least, rounding out our top 25 is the Fresno State Bulldogs. Now, they played UNLV on Friday, and they won that game 38-30, but they did not look that good in this game, guys. UNLV is a bad team, and they could not run the ball to save their lives. Their quarterback, he threw 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. He threw for a lot of yards too. He looked good, but their defense just could not do anything against this UNLV team, and that's why I had to keep them at the 25 spot. I know Fresno State had an upset. They beat UCLA, but I don't know. This game kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, that's been my top 25. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm actually going to put the top 25 AP ranking right here, right at the end of the video, so you guys can compare, see how I did, see how the AP did, and see which one you guys agree with more. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.